Welcome to the Orange Flag Podcast. I'm Austin.
I'm Aries.
I'm Nicole. We obviously had a race recap last week, so we didn't get into any of the important news of the week. Big week last week for friend of the show, Lawrence Vantor. Announced contract changes for 2027-2028. So we had to talk about that. Just very briefly. Signed with McLaren, starting as a full factory driver in 2028. Next year, he'll be on loan with Porsche for, at the very least, the IMSA endurance rounds. Doesn't have a GT program announced, but it's pretty safe to assume it exists, because when James Barkley was asked about if he was going to have a McLaren GT program, they referenced his Porsche GT program. Barkley did say that currently there is no GT program, but they're very open to that in the future.
Yeah, I mean, assuming that he still does a bunch of GT races with Porsche, I'm kind of assuming it's gonna be maybe the Nürburgring, maybe some NLS, maybe GT World Challenge Europe, and what else? I don't think not much more than that. Maybe Bathurst.
I figure he does IGTC.
Yeah,
I figure if might be similar to more of what Matt is doing this year, is kind of the vibe I'm getting. That's just my guess. So, who knows? We'll see. The other thing that was also kind of grouped into this announcement was Lauren Heinrich will be full-time in PPM next year as well. So they're kind of swapping roles, basically.
Cars haven't been confirmed, so it's not officially a swap. I think it is pretty safe to assume that it's truly a swap, though. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't keep Car 7's lineup together. Again, unless Felipe Nasser goes to IndyCar. But
bye, Joseph.
if Felipe stays in IMSA, keep Car 7's lineup together.
Yeah. And it's not like Larry hasn't been the endurance guy in Car 7 or anything.
Right. But yeah, Lauren moving to full-time in Car 6 would be my guess. Which means, Lauren, I'm gonna need another hat. Lauren's gonna be like, if Kevin's not in the car, just cross his name out on the Car 6 hat. Or put a sticker.
I mean, that was the first thing Matt said when he gave me the new hat, was that I didn't have to wear the 5 hat anymore and had the correct version now.
Right?
So.
Yeah. But, yeah, so I mean, that's interesting. It also gives us a little more to guess about with what Kevin might do with Toyota. I would assume that it will mirror what Larry's doing. The only difference is Toyota is releasing the GR GT3 next year, widely releasing it, supposedly, including potentially a Nürburgring, competitor. So,
yeah.
Who knows? I mean, Kevin could do a lot smaller of a loan, or he could not do a loan at all and just go become a Toyota factory driver. I think that would be a very sad way for Kevin to go out from the Grello, what happened this weekend. I'd love to see him get one final shot before he switches to another brand for GT. It's also possible that everything that everybody is saying about Kevin going to Toyota isn't happening. I think it's happening personally. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't happen. Too many people are saying it. When I was saying this 8 months ago, it was me being silly. Now everybody's saying it. I don't think everybody is being silly. I think Kevin's probably going to Toyota. So
it's also
illusion, maybe.
That maybe. But also, when you look at Larry and Kevin, they're two guys who have made it very clear that Le Mans is a priority.
Yes. Right. WEC is everything to them. I mean, and For Kevin, I think personally, it's about being in a winning car right now. Larry has said he wants this to kind of be developing like what he had with the 963 again, where he can develop a car into a Le Mans contender, into a championship contender. Like, obviously, within, the 3 years that car existed, they came in fourth at Le Mans, they came in second at Le Mans, they got the driver's title. That's very impressive for a 3-year run of a car. So I don't see any reason why Larry couldn't replicate something like that with McLaren. And I think that's probably what Larry thinks as well, if I had to guess.
It's also just one of those situations where, because you know that that's a priority for them taking that step towards wanting to do WEC again just makes more sense.
Right. I'm very, very curious to see whether Kevin has a loan at all and whether it is structured like Larry's, just because I think Toyota offers him everything that he wants. McLaren doesn't offer everything that Larry wants. So yeah. Kevin might not need to do a loan.
That's also so when I was thinking about it, I was like, if I look at this, I think it's a loan where it's a loan for him to stay doing GT with Porsche for a year and the endurance rounds, and then he's just with Toyota for WEC stuff, because there's no reason for there to be a loan otherwise if he's going to be doing Toyota stuff for GT and Toyota stuff for WEC.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that I don't necessarily, assuming that Kamui did not completely burn the bridge they have with Wayne Taylor, I don't see any reason for Kevin to not fully go to Toyota. Because he can do the Cadillac as a car is a contender at Daytona. Whether Wayne Taylor can stop tripping over themselves is another question, but the Cadillac, the V-Series R, is a contender at Daytona. Just as much as the 963 is. Yes, I think that Porsche Penske Motorsport is far, far more competent, and I would much rather see Kevin at PPM at Daytona next year than at Wayne Taylor Racing. But I think that if Kamui has kept those doors open to where Kevin could be placed in one of the Wayne Taylor cars for Daytona, and they guarantee him that the GRGT3 will be ready for the Nürburgring, I don't see why he doesn't fully go to Toyota.
Yeah. It's also on the side, not even just of if Kamui kept that relationship, if Cadillac is still interested in doing that, because they've obviously kind of shown more interest in staying within the Cadillac family as of recently, because they're starting to all kind of work together more than they ever have. So whether Cadillac is still interested in working outside of Cadillac.
I mean, that's kind of what I mean by, keeping that bridge there. Is there even that relationship with Toyota and Cadillac? And I guess that goes both ways. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't know by Le Mans what those plans will be. I thought it would have been funny if he, confirmed next year for the Grello during the race this year so that we knew, but obviously with the way the race went, that wasn't a possibility. And then his Instagram post did not sound overly like he was sure, but then again, his story at the end of last year had me thinking that that was his last year in the Grello. He thanked everybody and he said goodbye to the Nürburgring last year, so...
It's why I don't read anything into his social media, because of how inconsistent it is. And,
it's because it's not PR. It's literally a dude sits down and says what's on his mind, and that's it. It's clearly not a PR person writing Kevin's posts. I think Sebring made that very clear. that
Yes.
Kevin writes Kevin's
Wow.
posts. Because no PR person in the world would have approved what Kevin said after Sebring.
No.
Definitely not. That was feisty.
It was amazing, but it was, yeah.
That was feisty.
It was.
That it was.
I think that, I don't know, I think that by Le Mans we could have probably, finally, we will probably know what in the world's going to happen next year. I don't think it's going to be after that.
Yeah, I would expect we'll know the entire McLaren lineup, the entire Ford lineup, and whatever the heck Kevin Estra is doing by Le Mans.
Yeah.
So that doesn't give us a ton of time, which is fantastic because then I can continue emotionally. I have already started emotionally preparing for Kevin to go to Toyota. I am in a Toyota fans group chat. I am not a Toyota fan, but I need to, be among these people because they need to know me before next year. Because
I need to be among
when I burst onto the scene with the same excitement that I have right now for these guys, suddenly for Toyota, because, I mean, let's be honest, it's about Kevin, so wherever he goes, I go.
Very much
See,
so.
I'm still floating in, like, the ether. I'm just, Matt is such a mystery that I haven't attached myself to anything. We just wait until an announcement comes out.
Yeah. Toyota doesn't seem to have as cool a merch either. Like, they don't have personalized driver hats. They just have, like, honestly, their new red merch isn't even on sale yet, so I can't even, like, buy merch if Kevin does. Like, if Kevin announced that he's going to Toyota tomorrow, there's no merch for me to buy. But at least Toyota makes merch, unlike PPM. Like, I have a lot of PPM hats. I bought one of them. The rest of them, the drivers have given me. So, like, Toyota, thank you at least for making merchandise. It's wonderful of you.
It's also, the colors are semi-similar.
Kevin said that when I said that he looked least weird in a Toyota suit. His actual response was, that's because those are Porsche colors. Thank you, Kevin. Yes, I am aware that they are, in fact, Porsche colors. He's not wrong. I mean,
he's not wrong.
Especially last year's suits.
Yeah.
This year's suits are a little less Porsche-y, but they're a little redder. But Toyota wants to confuse the ACO. ACO knows red car win. So they have become red car. So red
Join
car
the red side of the force.
Yeah, I look terrible in red. I have told Kevin this. I have told everybody this. I do not look good in red. So, like...
Yeah. I remember the
really,
Target days.
I also don't look good in orange. So, like, thank you, I guess, for not going to McLaren, assuming you're not going to McLaren. But, like, Larry's going to McLaren, so if Larry gives me a hat, then I'm going to be stuck with orange.
I'd like I'd like a full-size orange McLaren, please.
Okay, but the problem is the McDonald's McFlurry machines are never working, so I don't know if the McLaren machine is going to be working.
I just had to.
Say, I have never gone to McDonald's and had the ice cream. I know that's like the meme. Real life experience, anecdotally, I've never had that happen. Like, I have never gone to order a McFlurry and had them be like, our ice cream machine's broken. The one by me, always is working.
I've had it, but it's never been, like, my one near me. I've, like, rarely go to McDonald's for ice cream.
Yeah, right. Why would you go to McDonald's for ice cream?
Yeah, it's like I'm road tripping, it's getting late, I need sugar to keep me up. There's a McDonald's drive-thru. Yeah. So I get an ice cream and the machine's not working. That's like the times this happened for me, is like late night drive.
Yeah.
Need ice cream.
Makes sense. Well, now we end the fun and happy part of the show and go into the serious conversation about the Nürburgring, but not actually about the Nürburgring.
We don't do race reviews if you don't know our culture.
Yes. Our culture here on the Orange Flag podcast is we do not do race reviews. However, we do fan culture reviews pertaining to races, which is what this is, but in a slightly different way than we normally do. Normally, it's one of the three of us being like, I was at a race and it was amazing because I did this and that and the other things. This is all about being online. And, we are a very online-based show. I would say that from my understanding of our audience, we are primarily listened to by people that are part of sportscar Twitter. So, it's a tiny niche group. We have 40 average listeners. I'm just gonna be honest. We are a tiny niche. This is addressing that tiny niche. If you're not part of that, I'm sorry. This isn't going to pertain to you. This may be very inside baseball. No, don't go away. Stay. Listen. Because I think it's something that everybody should be aware of exists, whether it pertains to you, whether you are part of Sportscar Twitter, whether you are part of the online community or not. I think it's incredibly important that people understand this, which is why I think it needs to be addressed. Everybody likes to say, oh, get off of the internet and go touch grass. And yeah, you know what? Sometimes that is the case because if you go to a race, the community there is amazing. You don't see this fighting that exists online. There is a barrier to entry to going to a race. You need to buy a ticket. You need to travel to the race. There are casual fans out there, and a lot of them exist online. Social media has zero barrier to entry, so that is where the most casual of racing fans exist. And people knew about the Nürburgring 24 hours if they were a casual Formula One fan, because the Formula One app, according to my sister, was saying that Max was racing in the Nürburgring 24 hours. So, people that are not obsessed with F1 or sports cars might have been checking this race out for the first time. Might have, especially if you weren't in the US and you were able to just click on YouTube and get it, checking this race out for the very first time. Checking endurance racing out for the very first time. And, the broadcast actually did a phenomenal job welcoming those people in.
Yeah, it's kind of tracing a sort of parallel to this. It was and Formula One. It was kind of what happened when we had Logan Sargent last year, debuting in IMSA in the LMP2 class. Every now and again, the commentators would be like, "Oh, Logan is doing this, Logan is doing that," or "Oh, if you're new here and you don't understand what's going to happen now, or what does this mean, or what does that mean, or how things are going to proceed, and how everything is going to be organized." It was very explicitly put out to these newcomers, and I feel like that's how how you draw an audience in, and how you keep at least part of that audience in. I saw plenty of, for all the timeline warfare, that's what I'm going to call it, for all the timeline warfare that I saw during this weekend, I saw plenty of people actually praising the commentary for doing exactly that. And honestly, yeah, that's I feel like commentary is a key part of maintaining an audience when most people there are new, or a good chunk of them are new.
Yeah. It's just also the warfare, like you were talking about. Even back when Logan did his IMSA stint, that existed too. So it's almost like anytime you have somebody big joining into a new series or doing a one-off or something, that always kind of happens. It's kind of something you expect, but both times we've had kind of the commentary, at least, explaining, which was helpful.
I'm gonna go out of order from the notes right here because what you just said kind of leads into something I have a little later in the notes. I agree. There's warfare all the time, and we, as sports car fans, need to be honest with ourselves about the absolutely disgusting double standard that we have regarding this warfare. We are out there regularly calling drivers and teams our enemies, saying we hate them, wishing people to crash, using slander names. But the second somebody with a Lando Norris or Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton profile picture does that, they are now the worst fan in the world. Get out of our space. Get out of sports car racing. Go back to F1, you DTS fan. I'm sorry, but that's disgusting. We are just as tribalistic as they are. So we need to be honest with ourselves about that, because all that is us being gatekeepers, which is what we say we don't do.
Which also, in turn with that, kind of from the opposite side, because I definitely saw cases where I like to say for any community, you're going to have good apples and bad apples. And I definitely saw cases of like the good apples of sports cars trying to explain things to people and being in turn met with criticism and just people from the F1 side of things kind of saying they were wrong or trying to fight back. And so what I've always said is, if you want to be respected and accepted, don't insult the people trying to teach you. So like, if you're a Max fan, don't insult sports car fans that are trying to explain things to you, and saying that people aren't being helpful when somebody's literally in like your comments trying to explain stuff to you. Also in the opposite way though, like if somebody just is asking simple questions to you as a sports car fan because they know that you most likely are going to have the answers, it doesn't take any extra effort to be nice and explain it to them. It takes more effort to be rude and try to fight people. So there was also the whole situation of like dissing but before the race even started, which kind of leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. So like at the end of the day, like as long as you're being respectful to each other, you'll hopefully get respect back in turn. But also understand if you're dealing with some bad apples, both sides, dealing with some bad apple F1 fans or dealing with some bad apple sports car fans, understand that's not the entire race. There were good sports car fans trying to explain things to people and good F1 fans trying to be understanding of sports cars and actually enjoying it as well. So we can't like group everyone into one category sort of situation.
The biggest issue with all of that I saw was people not understanding who was a troll. So there was a massive kind of cross contamination of these two groups. It happened with our friend Mark. He didn't know the account What's Understeer. And they did their typical NASCAR trolling thing, but about the Nürburgring 24 hours, and I mean, I knew it was a troll account, but it seemed like good just banter for the internet, so I played into it. Mark didn't know until I told him. Myself and a couple other people told him, hey, that's a troll account. You know, people not understanding that Pat is a troll account, not understanding that Fifth Gear to some extent is a troll account, that Drayton to some extent is a troll account. Heck, I troll a decent amount, you know, not understanding who the players are in any online community sets you up to accidentally stumble into the middle of an inside joke that you don't get, into the middle of a fan war you don't get. If you are a longtime follower of me personally, not necessarily the show, but you might remember when I kind of waded into Formula E Twitter last year and accidentally stumbled into the middle of two beefing accounts And, like, that was my very first interaction with anybody other than our friend Jody that does anything with Formula E. And that made me not want to engage with Formula E people on Twitter for the majority of last year. Because I stumbled into something without realizing that these two accounts beef or whatever, and it became a whole mess. I bet that happened to a lot of Formula One fans or first time endurance racing people, and they got caught up in something Mark was saying, something Pat was saying, who knows, something I was saying. You know, these people that are, there's probably 500 of us total that regularly predominantly talk about sports cars. We kind of all know each other. These people don't know us, we don't know them, they don't know the jokes, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I said the thing about, you know, there are two Formula One World Drivers' Champions and they're both doing the Nürburgring 24 hours this weekend. I had Max fans getting a little weird about that to me because everybody on sports car Twitter understands that joke. You know? That is a pretty well-known joke. But Formula One fans have no idea what it is. I didn't feel like explaining it, so I didn't. I could have gotten into it with all of them, but that felt like it was going to be setting Kevin up. I didn't want to set Kevin up. You know, Kevin made a mistake. I like making fun of him for it, but I can make fun of him, I feel like, for it. I don't know that somebody that wouldn't know who Kevin was if he walked by them on the street should be making fun of him for his printing screw up, you know? So
Yeah.
I intentionally left that vague and did not respond to anyone who asked, oh, well, who's the other one? Oh, what's this about? Like, sorry, you're not getting that answer. 117,000 people saw that tweet. I meant for 500 people to see it, you know?
Yeah. It was also, for me, I saw like F1 fans who were obviously first time endurance like viewers trying to explain things about the Nürburgring as if they knew about the Nürburgring, and it very clearly they didn't. And I guess from my point of view, I've always believed if you're like a first time viewer of anything, just sit back, enjoy.
Yes.
Don't try to explain anything as if you know it. Like, at the end of the day, you don't know anything, so don't try to act like you know anything. Sit back and soak up the information so that next time if somebody does ask a question, maybe you then can answer it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest example of that was that tweet about Max knows this race like the back of his, or this track like the back of his hand. It's not a challenge for him. I'm sorry, but you have Kevin Estra, Mauro Engel, both of the Vantors, both of the Vandelindas saying that you will never know this track perfectly. So there is no way that Max would ever say he knows this track perfectly.
Nürburgring is literally
That's not something
known.
Max has ever said.
Yeah, but Nürburgring is also literally known for being a track where it's like, you never know this track.
Because
like,
it changes.
It changes. There's so many variables to it. So seeing that take, I was like, I can tell you're a first-time viewer who doesn't understand. And it's like, just sit back, enjoy the race. Next year, you can come in with your points because you'll know stuff then.
I think that tweet was actually kind of the perfect example of that tweet, and the comments on that tweet was like the perfect example of what we're talking about. Because half of the people commenting were like, no, you don't understand, Max is just that good. And the other half were like, oh, wow, really? That's not something, like, this isn't a track you can ever learn? Like, because they've all heard of Mauro Engel. They've all heard of Kevin Estra. Like, because Mauro obviously got in that beef with Max last year, and then, ironically, given that they never got to race against each other, Max and Kevin were set up as, like, this is the battle of the race. So I would say that every Max Verstappen fan is aware of the names Mauro Engel and Kevin Estra, and they know that those are people that are considered, like, good. So you say, hey, these guys say that it is impossible to do what you're saying, and they're like, oh, okay, like, that makes sense. Like, this is a giant track, and I will say, as the race went on, the tone of, like, before the DNF, the tone of the Max fans changed. Of all the Formula One fans, changed as they realized what this race is and why we talk about it the way that we do. Because I don't know. I mean, I guess none of them watched any of the NLS rounds, I guess. And we're probably just thinking like, oh, this is a big track like the way Spa is a big track. Because obviously Spa is like, what, like 7 kilometers instead of the typical 5?
It's only 7 kilometers.
Right. Spa is a big track by Formula One standards.
Yeah.
The Nürburgring is a big, the Nordschleife is a big track by any standard. And I think I truly noticed a completely different tone from the beginning of the race to the, when car 3 had the mechanical failure. A massive shift in tone from the fans, and then also just like understanding there is a lot more going on in this race. It's not just flat out for 2 hours and then you're done. Seeing people not understand the, as I said, is Windward pulling a PPM at Sebring. They were. It's amazing how much earlier I asked that in the group chat before the commentary team said, could they be doing this? Because I've lived that. So
it was
that
also
is PPM's hallmark. And
it was also just
team.
so obvious, it felt like.
Was it obvious to us because it's what our 3 team, like the team that the 3 of us support, does
maybe
as a standard practice. Like, they do the pit stop switch as a standard practice. They do the, if we're running ahead, we're going to do the clean air swap as a standard practice. If you're not a PPM fan, if you're not an IMSA fan, is that something that you necessarily... Now, Hindi should have, given that he is an IMSA commentator, probably should have picked up on that a little quicker than he did, but that's fine, that's okay. All good there.
Yeah, I don't even remember if he was the one commentating when they had their little, like, near miss, and everybody was like, oh, now they're gonna freeze. At least I thought, from this point, they're gonna freeze the order, and it's gonna be a parade for the next 16 hours, which it kind of was, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it was. So. And who was it? One of the 8 drivers did say, they told us after that to freeze the order.
I think it was.
I
think it was Fabian Schiller. I think I saw his name being thrown around a lot.
I couldn't remember whether it was him or Lucas Stolz. It was one of the 2 of them.
I think it was Schiller.
Okay, yeah. But one thing that I did find really, really strange was after the mechanical failure. I guess I keep calling it a DNF, and I know they came back out for a show lap at the end, but that realistically nobody else under any other circumstance would have fixed that. If that was just, the Windward Racing second Mercedes that was, some other random number, not car 3, and didn't have Max Verstappen associated with it, that, like if Philip Ellis was in that car instead of Max Verstappen with that same lineup for the rest of the guys, they would have retired that car.
Oh, I'll do you one better. If it was the other Mercedes in the fight.
Yeah, right. They would not have gotten Maro's car back out there for a show lap at the end. Good point. Very good point. I don't know why I just did Philip Ellis propaganda for no reason, but he was literally the first Mercedes driver that popped into my head.
It's your IMSA brain working.
Yes.
I genuinely don't know why his name came into my head, but yeah, probably just because he's a run-of-the-mill person that they wouldn't do anything special for. But
I mean, the
after
other big banger teams, like the big shot teams, like in the middle of the night or something, when they had apparently issues that at least looked, because I'm not a mechanic, I can't tell you if something's fixable or
yeah,
not. But like something that would take a bit of time, but it could send the car back out to circulate, maybe pick up some positions or whatever if someone else ran into trouble. If these guys didn't do that, then
I mean, the Grello could have. It didn't look like there was that much damage to that car that they
yeah,
couldn't have gotten it back. That was like, what, hour 5 of the race? Like, they could have gotten it back out there just for fan service, but me as a fan of that car, I would say everybody else that's a fan of that car, they don't want fan service. They want a win. So there's no reason to send the car back out for fan service, but I get why Windward did what they did, but I'm still calling it a DNF. But sorry, that was a big old sidetrack. After the not DNF, there was a lot of really weird commentary from sports car fans being like, F1 fans just don't understand that this happens in sports cars. And they weren't being like explaining it, right? Hey guys, we know this sucks, like this happens in sports cars. Sometimes you do everything right and then your car breaks down. And like they were rubbing the clip from Le Mans in people's faces. Look, this happens. Like no one cares. No one knows what that means. Showing the Toyota stopping on track to somebody that does not know that that's the Toyota doesn't mean anything to anybody. So, like, rubbing that clip in someone's face means nothing. And, like, Aries, when I say Auburn's gonna win the football game, do you even know that clip? I know Oz does, because it's a prolific clip in America.
I am
Aries is confused.
clueless.
Right. Okay. So Auburn University is an American college. They are a big name in American college football. There was this clip where they ran a missed field goal back for a touchdown. And the call is like, oh, he's got, the 10, the 20, the 50, Auburn's gonna win the football game. And it is the most prolific football clip in America. It would be like me rubbing that clip in your face when you have no idea what it means. That's what we, sports car fans, were doing to these Formula One fans with the Toyota clip. It means nothing to them. What is the point of rubbing it in their face? Like, do it. If you want to show that clip, do it differently. Hey man, I know how this feels. This was my team. They were going to win this 24-hour race. They DNF'd on the last lap. I know what you're feeling right now. That's not what they were doing. Like, why do we need to be so... We are being who we say they are. It's just... It infuriates me.
I mean,
why are we complaining about new people being in our space, but not trying to help them learn? Not talking about the people who don't want to learn. There's nothing we can do about that. But why are we mocking them for not knowing anything? Seriously.
It's also, I think, why sports car fans who are on Twitter but not on sports car Twitter aren't in sports car Twitter. So like for me, when I started on Twitter, I started off as on F1 Twitter because it was the area that had the most acceptance, it felt like, to new people coming into like the Twitter sphere.
Crazy because I find F1 Twitter completely the opposite of that. Like, if you don't, me as an Alonso fan, I feel like if I tweet about Formula One, I get attacked more than anything. Versus, like, there are a lot of people out there that don't like Kevin Estra, but they're polite about not liking Kevin Estra. There's one or two accounts that
The timing of when I came into F1 Twitter was like after COVID. So like vibes were very different.
So like you were new when everybody else was new.
Sort of thing.
Okay, gotcha.
Whereas
nobody knew to not
exactly
like people.
And so I found, and then like coming into IndyCar Twitter, I was like, that felt accepting. Coming into sports car Twitter, despite the fact I had been following sports cars for a while, felt like more of a fight of having to really prove yourself, which was why
and I had none of that.
Which is why I stayed away from it for a while. And I felt like we kind of went away from that, and then this weekend went right back to that.
And maybe that's why I'm so upset about this weekend, is because I never had that experience. I started interacting on sports car Twitter with the people and was immediately like, I never had anything that wasn't just banter, oh, you like this driver, screw you, I like that driver. Like, that's sports. Me and you do that about the Patriots and your fish. Like,
Dolphins.
That's sports. So, I don't have an issue with people having different favorite drivers, but like, I do have an issue with people saying like, I just tweeted a meme about it right before we started recording, pretty much. Like, you're not a real racing fan if you don't watch the Indy 500 instead of the Canadian Grand Prix. If you are not watching, Le Mans instead of whatever F1 races on that weekend. You're a racing fan if you like vehicles racing one another. There is no, I'm a better racing fan than you because I like a series that matters more than you.
I tweeted about that too, and I said, realistically, with the way the weekend's laid out, you should be able to watch all three. But we all have a series that we prefer, a style of racing that we prefer, so naturally, if there is overlap between them, which there could be this weekend, you're gonna pick the one that you favor more. And that's just normal for sports in general.
The Nürburgring 24 Hours and the Indy 500 are the same weekend next year. I need to decide which one I'm going to. I have standing tickets to the Indy 500, but it could be Kevin's last go in the Grello. Which one do I go to? So, that's... if I decide to go to the Indy 500, what if it's Scott Dixon's last Indy 500 in the 9 and Kevin's last Nürburgring 24 Hours in the Grello? Which one do I pick? Am I lesser of a fan for picking one over the other? I've been a fan of Scott a lot longer than Kevin, but, Kevin's a cool acquaintance of mine. Everybody seems to think we're friends. I think that's overstating it a little bit. But, Kevin knows my name. I don't think Scott does. But it's just like, are people gonna judge the heck out of me because I pick one over the other? If both drivers that I am very passionately a fan of are both kind of having their last hurrah at their biggest race, how do I pick? And why should I be judged for picking that? Now, that's an entirely hypothetical thing. It could be Kevin's first race in the GRGT3. It could not even be close to Scott's last race in the 9. But I don't think that anybody should be judged for making a decision like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say judgment for this kind of thing, like, it's probably the stupidest kind of move anybody could pull. Like, it's your decision. You are going. Why the heck should anybody be sitting on their high horse and being like, oh, I know more than you than you know about yourself, and I'm gonna tell you that you did the wrong thing. That's stupid.
I do think that everybody would be surprised say, in the next 6 months, Kevin does announce that'll be his last race with Porsche, at the Nürburgring, and Scott announces that next year is going to be his last year full-time with CGR. And I choose to go to the 500. I think people will be surprised. I don't actually think that's the decision I would make, because I've seen Scott race in the 9 more than once. I've never seen Kevin race in the Grello, but I think people would be surprised if I made that decision, but I don't think that I should be judged for it. And I think I think people would say, "Oh, I thought you were Kevin Estra's biggest fan. Yeah. Why aren't you going?"
It would be like judging me last year because I went to the Coca-Cola 600 instead of going to the 500 because, and I'm on Twitter and I say I'm an IndyCar fan and a NASCAR fan and I picked to go to the 600. It would be like judging me saying I'm more of a NASCAR fan than an IndyCar fan because I picked the 600 because it was Connor's first race instead of going to the 500 for the crossover of my 2 teams that I like.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if that was the situation and you were like, yeah, I'm going to Indianapolis instead of the Nürburgring, but I would be surprised, not judgment.
Right. I think he may be a little judgmental because he was a little judgmental about me not going this year. So I could be extra judgmental about me not going next year. It's expensive to go to Germany, Kevin.
Money.
You're kind of crossing an ocean.
If I was not going to 9 of this man's races in the United States this year, I may have gone to his 1 race in Germany. However, I'm going to 9 of his races. I really feel like that I shouldn't be judged for not making it over to Germany. I feel like I would have been so frustrated. And butterfly effect and everything, I could have gone and they could have won the race. But assuming nothing changed about the outcome of the race, I would have been incredibly frustrated if I went to that race and they DNF'd in hour 5 or whatever it was. That would have been pretty terrible.
I still get yelled at by Australians for not going to Bathurst this year. Guys, it's a very long flight and a lot of money.
So, I would actually like to bring that up while we're on this topic of judgment. You are not less of a fan because you can't afford to go to a race. Now, don't call people who can go to races rich. Don't say that they're all high and mighty and hoity-toity. I work my butt off and sacrifice other things to have the money to go to the number of races I did. I am also older. I am in a very different place in my life with an established job that I've been in for over a decade. I'm in a very different place in life than a lot of people, and I would never judge someone for not being able to go to a race. And I know sometimes people say it and they mean it as a joke, oh, well, why aren't Kevin was joking with me. I don't want anybody to think when I say he's judging me for not going. It was a joke because the very next words out of his mouth were, well, maybe if you didn't go to Chile so much, you could afford to go to Germany. We were joking with that whole me not going to the Nürburgring thing. But there are fans online who will absolutely judge people who have never been to a race. There are people online that I am online friends with. There are people that I know in real life that do it. And now I will say that sometimes I pull out I've been to this race, that race, this other race, when people start acting like, or wanting to act like I don't know anything. If I'm talking about the paddock or I'm talking about the difference between IndyCar and Formula One from a fan experience, and they're like, well, no, blah, 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 from what I see online on Sky Sports. And it's like, have you ever stepped foot in a paddock, bro? That's just, people should not be spouting nonsense. That's not me saying you're lesser because you haven't been to a race. But there are people out there who act like you are lesser if you don't go to races.
Yeah. Like, I didn't start going to races even though I had one in my city, because St. Pete is very close of where I was going to college. I was a college student. I was focused on the fact I had an internship and school all full time. I wasn't going to be going to races while getting my degree because I was focused on other things. So,
Like,
like, there's so many variables.
Larry at one point was like, well, why weren't you going to races during the RSR? I was in school, I was starting a new job, like I was working for myself for a while. I started the full-time job that I have now back in 2015. Like, when you're new at a job, you're like trying to not take quite so much time off. I also worked an abnormal schedule at the time. So, like, to go to something on a weekend, I would have had to be taking days off. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to establish myself as, like a strong worker in the company. Um, and again, like, a driver asking that is not judgmental, but not everybody shares the same life experience. I work a job where I work 6 to 4 Monday through Thursday. That enables me to go to races basically anytime I want. Because I can fly out Thursday night and I can fly back Monday morning and just be a little late to work. I can go to a race and miss 0 work. I know most people can't do that, so I truly try not to assume anybody else has my situation when, asking if people, hey, you should come to a race. It's hard. Okay, cool. Because for so much of my life, I went to one race, and that was the race my dad brought me to every year because he and I have been going to the US Grand Prix together since 2002.
Yeah. Like, even last year, I went to, like, I would say a lot of races for me because the job I had at that time was a job I was technically on call 24/7. If they needed me, they called me and I was in. Like, getting to go to as many races as I did last year, knowing at any point I could have been getting the call that I needed to be at work, like, that was a privilege.
Yeah, well, as the guy with as we stand right now, the grand fat total of 0 races attended, and yeah, I can
Yeah,
say
but which one of us owns a business and which one of us doesn't? You're in the
exactly.
best place in life of the three of us. You're a business owner, dude. You are 10 years younger than me and you own a business.
I know, but I mean, it was still a long road where when I was still able to, like, concerning myself with, being able to close out the month properly without worrying
Yeah.
about something being left behind. Like, even not, I'm not even gonna talk about going to races because this is a newer thing for me. But even little, smaller things like, owning a piece of merch from a team, or owning, like, I don't know, a model of a car or something, or some kind of souvenir. For me, like, that was inconceivable. I was like, oh, everybody can do this. Why can't I do that? Am I less of a fan because of it? Like, because I had other priorities at
Never.
the time. But still, for some reason, sort of, at least that was my case. It was kind of mm, uh, me, kind of me judging myself because I couldn't, but at the same time, I knew I had other priorities. So I've kind of left that behind now, obviously, but still, it's something that happened. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just getting it out there because someone else might relate.
Yeah.
Like, in my situation, I was basically making minimum wage. And the way I was able to afford the things that I did, especially last year, was I became really big into budgeting and making sure I budgeted every month so that I could do what I did. So, like, that's one of those things where, like, you don't realize how much work for some people goes in behind the scenes to what you're seeing.
And then, I don't know, just kind of a slightly off topic closing thought about all of this fan stuff. Obviously, when I go to races, it's not just drivers that are there. all the journalists, all the big names, the broadcasters, they're all there. Talked to some pretty big names at these races, and one thing that I asked them is like, I do a tiny little podcast. What should I do? And the answer from all of them has been, find what you're passionate about and do that. It's why I don't try to be unbiased on this show. I want you to know exactly where I stand on everything, because this is a passion project. We're not making money on this. We don't sell commercials. This is me saying what, and I assume for the two of you as well, saying your thoughts every week on what's going on in racing. This is passion for us. And I think that that's something that new fans, old fans, everybody needs to do. Find what you're passionate about and do that, and be honest about it. Are you a Toyota fan, or do you hate Ferrari? Are you a GT3 fan, or do you hate Max Verstappen? Are you a Max Verstappen fan, or do you hate Lando Norris? Hate watching is totally fine, but be honest that you're hate watching. There are Max Verstappen fan accounts that all they do is tweet about Lewis Hamilton. At that point, you are not a Max Verstappen account. You're a Lewis Hamilton account. Just be honest about being a Lewis Hamilton hate account. Don't pretend to be a Max fan account, because that is doing a disservice to the good Max Verstappen fans out there. Life online and in the real world is so much easier when you're just honest about where you stand.
Thanks for listening. You can find us on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at Orange Flag Pod. Nicole is at Nicole on Racing. Austin is at Austin Trackside, and Aries is at Aries_Alpenglow.
Stay orange.